Hello and welcome to the FaceBuilding Podcast, episode 57, with your amazing and lovely hosts, Vladi, Kuna.
And Norman Gräter. Hi.
Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening, good whatever, wherever you are, what time it is. And Vladi and I just had a big laugh because I told her I have a great quote that I heard last week on a leadership cruise that we can open the podcast with. And the quote is, "Your mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open." And Vladi started to laugh and said, "This is my opening quote for every speech I do." So I think I'm just quiet right now and hand it right over to Vladi, how you open your speeches and what it means to you, this beautiful quote.
Thank you, Norm. But you know what? I want to actually pause for a second, guys, and just make it. Isn't it funny? Because there are so many things that are around you and you hear them so many times. And that's this aha moment, or when you're in the right vibration, that you hear something and it feels like, oh my God, this is a new thing. It happens to all of us. That we feel like, I have never heard it before. And then when people tell you that they actually, oh, I've wrote a book about this, or I've heard this in a movie, or everybody's talking about it, you're like, I don't think I've heard it, because you are connecting to different things. So it's not that the message, and I want to point this out, especially because of the desires we have and the big goals we make. And sometimes we say, well, where is it? Well, we're not becoming one with it. We haven't matched the frequency. It's already here. The phrases, the people, the ideas, and somebody is telling you, and happens very often in relationship. You know, like your partners, your husband, wife, whoever, they're telling us all the time something, and then someone else tells you this, and you're like, this is a great idea. You come home with it and you announced it as, my friend just gave me a great, it's like, well, I've been trying to tell you this for 2 years, and you almost started arguing, going, no, you haven't. I've never heard this from you. Because to a certain degree, we shut our ears to partners when it's we're in a different vibration. And what happens is, we go to these places, and that's why it's important to go back to this quote. Your mind works the best when it's open, because imagine you jump off the plane, and if your parachute doesn't open, it's going to be a fast and non-enjoyable death, because literally this is your mind. If your mind is open and you are allowing growth and new opportunities to come in, if you allow to think differently, which means you come from a place of, okay, I want to hear more. I mean, I have a different opinion, but tell me more. Be the observer. Listen with your 2 ears. Remember, God gave you one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. You become smarter in terms of how much faster you can manifest things, because you are open-minded and abundant by having your awareness. You're awakening your awareness. Let me put it that way. So when I just made a laugh with Norman, but the truth is, you know how many people I said it to, they haven't heard it. Do you know how many people said to me something, and there comes the one person along, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this idea. Let me write it out. Let me work on it. And then your people around you are saying, well, we've been telling you this for a while, and you're just not listening. It's not that sometimes we don't listen. We become rejective towards certain people, certain energies, and we don't pay attention. And it's also the value we place on some people. We actually bring and attract more stuff. Norm, back to you. Have you had this happen to you before? Apart from today?
No, not at all. I had to laugh so much when you shared that whenever your partner or close person in your inner circle tells you something that you say, you did never mention that. I have that quite often, and I realize it is usually from a person that is very close to you, and where your mind, or let's say your ego, could jump on the wagon. You know, I tell you something about a friend. Never happened to me. Happened to me quite often. Yeah, to be honest, like Anke says something, and I think one of the keys is that sometimes she says, you must use this, you must do that. And if you tell me that I must, this is the end of the game, because my inner little speaker in my mind says, you must do. And then I don't say what I usually must do, but I don't need to do that, to phrase it in a much politer way. Then half a year later, I hear it. I read it, we talk about it, and like you just share, I come back to her and say, hey, I learned this great thing, and she rolls her eyes and says, yeah, I told you that half a year ago. No, you didn't. Yeah, and just talk to other people. And I think that usually we don't like advice from people in our inner circle. And I learned this the hard way when I did my NLP training and so many other things, that you have kind of a first aid kit for people, that their lives get better and that they have more joy and fun on the way, but they don't want to change. And this fits perfectly in our topic for today, which brought me to the question, do you have an open mindset or do you have a fixed mindset? And many people have a fixed mindset. Yesterday, I was jumping in for a friend of mine during a tour. So I replaced him as a tour manager for one evening only. And I spoke to the production manager of the tour. And he said, oh, we had some issues in loading the trucks lately because we have some people that are with the band. The band exists since 20 years. They're with the band basically since 20 years. And he told the production manager, we have always done it like that. And the production manager, he is very successful in his work and he works with Rammstein and other big bands. And he says, it's nice that you have always done it that way, but we do it my way because my way works. We do much bigger production than your production. And as I can see, it does not work. The cases go to the left, the cases go to the right. And this just frequently happened. And that's exactly our topic for today. It's a fixed mindset. It needs to be like that. There's no change possible. I don't like new things. But we want to have an open mindset like the parachute. Works best when it's open. If you have a closed parachute, it's great to have a wonderful backpack. But if you don't pull the rope or the string and it opens and you then use the stuff you have hanging around you, all those ropes. I've never been parachuting, so I have no idea what you do. But I can imagine you have to do quite something. So always make sure that you have an open mindset and not a fixed mindset. Have you been parachuting, Vladi?
I have skydived, and it was always my dream to skydive. And I remember it was such a great experience, and I want to do it again. I will do it again. But what was funny, because actually the parachute is the most important part why you do the dual jumps. They ask you, do you want to go solo? No. And the reason I wouldn't do solo is actually not that I would be afraid to jump, but what if the parachute doesn't open? What if I don't open it at the right time? We overthink things. And I want to really bring it to how mind works. The minute we start overthinking, you're losing a power and things are going different direction. If you actually trust, and it goes back to FaceBuilding Podcast, because you have to build faith. Because for me, I had faith in the guy who was with me. Obviously, it was in a duel. And I knew he's going to, and when he was strapping me up and putting the parachute on, explaining things, and he could see that all the people who are doing it first time are kind of tight, muscle faces, like the kind of smiles that you kind of, half dead already. And I was jumping. I was like, oh my God, it's mine. He's like, is it your first time? I said, yes, it is. And he said, oh, it's my first time too. And they throw these jokes in, so you actually laugh. It's like, yes, very funny. But really, it is it. Because when the parachute opens, then you have the joyous view. It's got this like, be open. And what actually Norman is talking about, fixed mind, I want to really bring this distinction. Fixed mind and flexible mind are different things. If you're flexible, that's part of growth. Meaning there's so many changing, and we do live in a fast changing world. So this world just brings us something. It's how do we react or respond to what happens, and how flexible are you? Because if you're rigidly fixed, like this is my way and I'm doing it this way, that's the ego way. It always is the ego way. And it's really part of the control we have. I'm in control and I always do it my way. And this is the biggest problem where it starts with relationships. It starts in the companies. Any kind of relationship, at schools, anywhere, if it's I will have it my way and the other person is strong-minded and having it their way as well, there has to be a compromise. Okay, we could bring this fixed mind to further step, but really having an open view and open mind. What if this worked for me? What if I did it differently? I'm the best salesperson, but what if I tweak it and I become even better? But we don't tend to change things unless we struggle. So it's like, this works, why to change it? But what if you did change something and it worked even better? And not just better, but easier. And you spend less hours and make more money, let's say talking about the project, or less effort, and you have better relationships. Like that is part of the open mind. And it's really important not to fix yourself on one thing and just be that one-headed person. I call them bulls with the straps, or horses, with the clubs, because it's the intuition. And that we're huge advocates, and you have a higher mental faculties. If you don't use the higher mental faculties and you prefer to use your five senses, that's the problem. And this is with the open and fixed mind too. Fixed mind is more of looking in the 3D world, and what are the senses? What do I see? What do I hear? What do I touch and smell? But it doesn't go to higher mental faculties. What's your intuition? You can create whatever you would love, your imagination. And with open mind, you definitely create more. I'll hand it back to Norm. What's your take on it?
While I was just listening to you, that you said it gets easier, and all those topics you just touched, it reminded me again of parachuting and jumping out of an airplane. Even though I never did it, I watched Mission Impossible and other great movies where people jump out of an airplane. And what you can see, the moment you jump out, there's a lot of resistance in regards of wind. You get a lifting, you get very stretched. And I can imagine it's very tough and challenging. And then you open your parachute. And then something interesting happens. You get pulled up. Like if you have an open mind, you get pulled up. But it might feel rough in the beginning, because you say, oh, I'm not used to that. I was free falling and I was totally adventurous, had the winds against me, and then you open your parachute, you get pulled up, and then what Vladi said, you have the overview. You can enjoy it because the wind is not smacking in your face with, 200 miles an hour, or I don't know how fast you fall. And therefore, the first moment when it goes up, it's challenging. If you go a new route, if you get, interested in AI systems, in robotics, and all the things, in personal development, in self-leadership. Speaking of self-leadership, I think we should speak about self-leadership also during one of the next episodes, as this is a huge topic for this year. But coming back to the parachute right now, it's challenging in the first moment. The first moment you were, kissing another person. The first moment you were sitting on a bike. The first moment you created a dish. It was challenging. It pulled you out of your comfort zone. It pulled you out of the common thing, of the fixed thing. Oh, I'm fixed in that thing, and parachuting for 10, 15, 20 seconds, I'm flying, free falling. I'm fixed in that. But then I want to elevate again. I want to grow again. And of course, you have to make the decision, because if you don't pull the little line, the parachute will not open. It's almost like in your regular life. If you don't decide to pull the string, the line, and say, I want to make something different, nothing will change. But the most beautiful things come the moment you're open to new things. Otherwise, like Vladi shared with the five senses, if you would not have your five senses, if you would not see, not smell, not taste, not hear, and you would have no feeling on your body, nothing new, no new impulse would go into your mind, into your brain, which means it would be dark, it would be silent, and basically it would just be a dark, silent room. You would have no desire. You would not see another car you like, or another trip, or another person, or another dish. I don't know. But through your five senses you learn. So always make sure that you pull. What is this basically called, Vladi? The little thing you pull. Do you know that?
I don't know. I think it's just the handle. But you know what? It's so good you're talking about it, because it brought me back to the pause where, when people push you, you want to jump off the plane. All of a sudden, it's a huge terror barrier you're facing, because you make this decision and no one really is talking about the very truth point to all of us. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't have to be jump off the plane. It's a new decision. You want to change a business. And actually great idea about we will talk about self-leadership next episode. But whatever step you want to make, if your mind likes familiar, right? So if you're stepping out of your comfort zone, your mind's going to go, whoa, 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 hold on. It's going to pull out all the bucket full of excuses. When I was up there, I realized I have never been in a plane with the door open. And he said, slide in, slide in. And then he's pushing you. And I could feel the resistance. My entire body was pulling back at him, just trying to back off. And he's like, keep like going forward. And when you get to the edge of the seat, sit on the side, like sit on the edge, put your feet under the plane. And then when you're ready, and in my mind, unfamiliar, right? My mind was racing with the fear, going, does it not suck me out immediately? Because I've never been in this situation before. So you do not know what to expect. And this is like life. If somebody puts you, or you put yourself in the position where you have to make a decision into the unknown, you have no idea what's happening. So obviously the whole body, physical body, is reacting to it, reacting immediately. And once you know, if I went again, I know exactly what to expect, right? You know it's not going to suck you out. You know what's going to happen. And when they pull you out, and he goes, when I say 3, we jump. He says 1, 2, and he kicks you out, because people on 3 hold on to the rails and never. So the resistance is really crazy. Once you're out, you pass that terror barrier. You're out of the fear, and you're already out. You enjoy. And I remember thinking, this is how eagles fly. I mean, it's amazing. You feel the freedom. It's one of my core values. So, like it was amazing. All of a sudden, there's no fear, because God places the best things there are on the planet on the other side of the fear. So if you're coming from the fear, worry, and doubting frequency, no matter what it is, your mind locks to it too. So it's not open, and you can be saying, oh, I'm open-minded. I'm a very open-minded person. But what does your vibration tells? Because there's so many out there. It's becoming my statements. It's like people who talk about affirmations and how they are words of affirmations, but they keep affirming and doing a different thing. I'm a woman of action. So remember the love languages we spoke to you about in the early episodes. You can Google it. You can go on the YouTube and actually just Google FaceBuilding Podcast love languages and go back to that episode, because the language you speak and the language you receive is different, and this plays a huge part on your open and fixed mind too. Norman, I had to point out that fear. It's just, and you pull that string, and like Norman said, it pulls you up, and then it just, you enjoy it. It's like this amazing free feeling. And I was just like, let's do it again, But it's a terror barrier for someone who's never done it before, because you have no idea what's happening. And we do not like unfamiliar. It's just the law of humans.
Isn't it funny that whenever we do something new and we mastered it, we think, oh, let's do that again. The water slide in the water park, the bungee jump, the roller coaster, the jumping out of an airplane, the doing something new, bike riding, running a 5K run, I don't know. Whenever we have done it, we realize, this was quite good. And we want to do it again. If you know that what Vladi said, the best things in life got placed on the other side of fear, that fear is just a terror barrier, what Vladi also mentioned, that the moment you're through, you would be happy, and you will be happy, and you want to have more. Why not do that right now? And I'm just being reminded of something, and I'm not quite sure who told me that. He said, if you are frustrated about somebody's honking the horn at you in traffic, and you're totally frustrated, you're throwing fingers, and you're screaming at the other one, could you laugh about this situation in a month or half a year? And most people would say, yeah, right, no matter what it is. You have to pay an invoice to the tax department, somebody calls you a name, you drop the cake that you just baked. Can you laugh about that in a month or in 2 months or half a year? And in really 99.9% of the cases, you would say, yeah, I think in a year time, I will laugh about it. And the main question then came up was, if you know that in a year from now, you would laugh about it, why don't you laugh about it now?
Yeah.
If you're 100% sure that you will laugh about it in the future, why wait? Why still throw out negative stuff and be fixed on this, no, I have to be right, and my ego wants to be right, and we do it the way we always did, and somebody else had another idea, and I don't like that. Why not laugh about it now and say, hey, I'm working on my open mindset. Of course, your ego will always try to hold you back, and the terror barrier will hold you back. But just because it's uncommon, it's unknown, and what Vladi said, that they push you out at 2 and not at 3 because people grab at 3, maybe you want to do the same. You jump a little earlier than expected. You do things a little sooner, a little earlier than they are supposed to do, and just see what happens. And I know, of course, your inner fear says, yeah, but what if it goes wrong? What if the parachute doesn't open? What if I don't have the money? What if the cake is not good that I'm baking? Yes, and what if it would be really amazing? This option most people don't even see because they're so full of fear. They're so fixed on their usual routine. But if you leave your comfort zone, and this is what we want to inspire you today, if you leave your comfort zone, even by half a step, you don't need to jump out 100% and go 5 miles and 10 miles and 20 miles out. Just go half a step out. And then the next day, go another half step and then another half step. The good thing about the little steps, you achieve one goal after the other, and this creates a winner mentality. You can tap yourself on the shoulder all the time, say, hey, I mastered it, I did good. And then you continue and you continue. And by building a habit of realizing that you're a successful person, that you achieve stuff, you will become more keen in trying out those new things because you say, you know, if I'm out half a step, I can always go back if it's really so terrible. Of course, this does not really work in a roller coaster that you can stop and just be back on the ground. And in a parachuting situation, you also cannot say, now I would like to go back in. The moment you're out, you're out. And this is what life is all about. The moment you leave your comfort zone, something new and probably much better will wait. And even if you say, I didn't like that, I realized that afterwards. What an amazing knowledge you just gained. Because you realize what you don't want to have anymore. And from that point, you can always look at the other side and say, what would I love to have even more in my life? And I think I leave it to Vladi to close today's call with something that's still on your mind or your heart, because you just wrote something down and I'm very nosy what you wrote down.
I wrote a question for you guys, which is, what is your mind fixed on? Because if you think about it, are you one of those people who always sees the mistakes? You know, like, I'm not going to name people around me and stuff, but it's always, you know, it doesn't matter. I've done 10 good things, but people walk into the room and they'll point out the thing that actually you didn't do. But that really has a purpose because that's how you're programmed. Are you programmed to actually see the good things that are happening, or you programmed to see the wrong things? And there was a math teacher who wrote, I think, like 5 or 6 math sort of examples, like 1 + 1 is 2, and 4 + 7 is 11. You know, like, and then he's done the one last wrong. And he said, isn't it funny that people, very little percentage of the people is trained to say, well done, you've got 9 out of 10 right. Whereas people go, oh, I can see the 10th one is wrong, the 10th one is wrong, because we are programmed to find the problem. What if we fix our mind of solution? In fact, Einstein talked about it, and the problems and the solutions are on different frequencies. And the minute you start worrying about solutions, because even if you're in any kind of business you want to make sales, okay? It really doesn't matter. You want to sell yourself or sell your company. It really starts with people will always buy your product or service as long as you are finding a solution for their problem. Sometimes we go out there for fun, but majority is because we want to have a problem or challenge solved. And people are willing to, people say, oh, people are talking about not having enough money. It's not about the money. It's about how well can you solve my problem and how fast can you solve my problem these days. So is your mind fixed on seeing the greatness in person, regardless of them making a mistake? Are you focused what an amazing people there are, how often they support you, how much great fun you have with them? Or are you waiting for that one mistake they do and then you talk about it for majority of the time? Because that's something I've been really observing lately. And I just want to not pinpoint, but I really would love to invite you to be one of those who are changing this and just say, I'm going to be fixing my mind on solution and finding and really seeing the good in everything and everybody. And your life will change like nothing. And I'm going to land it with that. And we will see you next episode talking about self-leadership.
Have a wonderful week. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.